It's May Material Girls Club Day, so let me show you around. Here we have our little craft table. So we're making beaded barrettes. I got these barrettes that have 2 notches on either edge of them, so you can kind of do like friendship bracelet vibe stuff and hang beads off them or across them. That'll be super fun. I'm gonna try to set you up to show you what I'm wearing here. So I just got this dress off of Vinted. It was originally Ghani, so very pink and cute for Material Girls. This scrunchie is from a pattern of Material Girls and these big boots. Next Material Girls Club is in Paris, so that's gonna be a great vibe, but I love these monthly London ones, and I think a lot of like regulars are coming to this one, so always fun to connect with some familiar faces. It's the day of the first upcycling workshop, and I'm very excited for these because it's going to be a little bit different than most Material Girls clubs that I do, like a little more facilitation. So let me show you around because we got a pretty cute setup going on. So at each person's spot, kind of like Material Girls Club, we have a little sheet that says everything about Material Girls, a sticker, and this time our drink sponsor is Dalston's, and this is very cute. They have a bunch of different drinks that are really good, but they sent me all different shades of pink ones, so they get the vibe. Embroidery hoops, scissors, and then these gems are for an activity we're gonna do to start out. When we get to the upcycling, I've got so much fun stuff here. So a bunch of different colors of embroidery thread. I even found some that's sparkly, which will be so fun. These are flowers Grace gave me to say good luck for the workshop, how cute. And then all of these different fabric scraps. So some of them are like literally scraps, some of them are fat quarters, but a ton to choose from. We're gonna be doing fabric patchwork stuff on upcycled pieces. Got some trims, some pins. These are those like markers that wash away. And of course, some more stuff to check out what Material Girls is up to. I'm wearing the shirt that I upcycled as an example for this. So I made a little collaged cowgirl boot, some jeans and my little Red Mary Jane's classic Alexa. Oh, and check out, I got this scrunchie that has a bunch of little like discs on it at a thrift store one day. Great find. I've been really interested in doing something that's a little bit more facilitated creatively. Like Material Girls Club is like definitely meetup vibes. People bring their own projects, which is great, and they share inspiration. But I wanted to do something that is kind of like we're all working on a project together. We can be inspired by each other, learn from each other. Love to facilitate that in the fiber art space. So in thinking about like getting into the creative mood, we're gonna start out with a little collaborative collage project, and we're gonna use paper. Give each person a piece of paper and tell them to cut out a shape. And then we're going to start passing each other's around, and each time you get one, you have to cut out another shape and add it on. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but I'll insert some clips. Hopefully it goes as seamlessly as I think it will, but I think it'll just be a cool way to kind of like, I get so in my head about like making things lay out perfectly, and so I think a little scrappy activity to start things off and just get the creative juices flowing could be pretty fun. So wish me luck. I've been kind of nervous for this because I have to do a little bit more like facilitation than usual, which like I literally have an art teaching degree, but I haven't used it in a while, so but I'm excited. This video, I read Decolonize Museums by Shimrit Lee and loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I thought this was such an amazing introduction and like accessible introduction to these topics. I really appreciated how from the beginning it defined a lot of things. Like when we talk about decolonizing museums, what exactly does that mean? When we talk about museums, how is that even defined? And it started out by talking about the controversy around how museums should be defined, because some people are in the camp of saying like museums are neutral spaces that should just collect things and present them and preserve them historically and let the public like look at them. And then there are people who say museums are absolutely political and they need to have a stance on things. They need to be sharing knowledge in a way that has context. So obviously the author of this book is in that second camp of saying museums are not neutral, they shouldn't be. And again, so accessibly, she takes it all the way back to the beginning and explains why that is the case. And the answer is that museums are so rooted in coloniality. They started from colonization as a way to show off colonial exploits, basically. So the roots of the modern Western museum that we think about when we say museum are in colonizers going to other places, looting, stealing other objects, and then bringing back and having them either in their own private collections and inviting people to their house to be like, look at all the things I conquered, here they all are, or doing public exhibitions where basically a colonizing government would put a bunch of colonial exploits and objects on display, even people from colonies on display for the public to basically romanticize the empire and be like, look at all these amazing things that we're doing and that we've collected and how far across the earth our empire expands. So the root is literally colonialism. Like, museums were created to show off colonial exploits. And a lot of those objects that were obtained through violent colonization are still in museum collections. Like, most big museums that you go into, the Louvre, the British Museum, the Met, all have looted objects in them that have come from private collections that can be traced back to colonization. So I think that shows that it's pretty obviously still a colonized space that needs decolonization. That is a political space where there are a lot of political controversies going on. A lot of these looted objects, their home countries have called for them to be returned. There are lists out where countries have said, you have XXX thing in the British Museum, we want it back. So there are a lot of ways that museums in the West are kind of dragging their feet in responding to those calls. One of them is claiming that they can take better care of these objects than their home countries can, which is obviously a really racist assumption about how people in other places of the world would take care of their historical objects. But it's also just a really Western notion of what caring for things means. And there were some interesting examples of that in the book where they were saying, like, it's important to remember that most of the objects we see in museums were not meant to be in a museum. They weren't made to be put in a glass box and just looked at. Like, you're seeing them really out of context, not only for like their intended use, but also their culture. Like, a lot of the cultures that we see in these like global museums that are supposed to show things from all over the world, these objects were not meant to be seen in a museum. And so it's not really representing the culture in a correct way. And the same thing goes for like caring for things, where we're projecting a very Western idea of what caring for things means. And a lot of people point to like Western science and say, well, it's just scientific. We need to preserve things. We need to, have them so we can study them. And there were some really interesting examples in the book where they talked about certain cultures where that is not the belief system and it's disrespectful to the culture to continue preserving these objects. And one of them was a Native American tribe in the US that makes figurines that represent gods that are only supposed to last for a year. And at the end of the year, they bury them and let them naturally decompose. And there are museums around the world who have these dolls who are preserving them. There's been a call from the tribe to repatriate them, to give them back so that they can like properly dispose of them in their cultural practice. And museums are refusing to give them back because they were like, you're going to destroy them. We want to preserve these things. And the people from this culture are saying, that is not how our culture works. We don't want these things to be preserved. So condescending, such a colonial mindset to decide that museums are the way to preserve culture, when a lot of cultures would say that is not how we do things. I also learned a lot in the book about some political, geographical, international laws and how that relates to things like repatriation, which is the process of like giving objects back to the places that they're from. And something that I had never thought of before was the international laws that come into play in order to do this. And an issue comes into play, the book was explaining, when there are international laws that say, this is the process of repatriation, but most of them depend on that being from a nation state to a nation state. So basically, if it's not coming from an established, like recognized country and going to another established recognized country where those governments can communicate with each other, there's not laws protecting or demanding that those things happen. So major examples of this, there are a lot of museums in Europe that hold looted objects from African countries and kingdoms that no longer exist. And so there's controversies and discussions about, well, if we want to repatriate these objects, where do they go? These civilizations don't exist anymore. And again, that becomes a reason that museums are dragging their feet instead of actually having those conversations and still coming to something and saying, well, we shouldn't have these, we're going to figure this out. They just say, well, it doesn't exist anymore, so who are we going to repatriate it to? The book also talks about how museums are such political spaces because by putting something in a museum and putting it behind glass, you just kind of make the culture appear like it existed in a different time period and like these issues aren't relevant today. And even if, we're looking at looted objects, that was hundreds of years ago, and it really disconnects us from realizing the political implications this has today. And throughout the book, one of the threads that the author talks about is Palestine, and how when we're talking about international laws, Palestine is not recognized as a nation state. And so a lot of times looted objects from Palestine that are in other areas cannot be repatriated because there isn't considered a governmental connection there to repatriate it to. This book does a really great job of contextualizing decolonization, because I think a lot of people and institutions mainly use decolonization as a word that makes it sound like colonization happened in the past and now we still have some ramifications we need to deal with. The book talks about how no, like colonization is actively still happening in the way that museums run is a reason that that is the case. It's terrible because even though I think it's quite obvious that museums are not neutral spaces, they are spaces that get a lot of public funding and are viewed worldwide as, you know, places that decide what stories should live on. And people, so a lot to unpack here. I just finished it last night and I feel like things are still swirling around and there are parts that I want to go back and reread. I really recommend it. I thought I'd start by showing you what I worked on at the upcycling workshop, which was awesome. It was like a more intimate group of people. Like I released less tickets than usually come to Material Girls Club, which I feel like it's just been fun to like develop these different kinds of workshops, because with Material Girls Club it's more of like a meetup vibe, and I like the room to feel really like full and buzzy and just like there are lots of people to talk to and meet. But for this it was more like we're doing creative activities, we're learning things, like it needed to be a little more like clocked in creatively. So having a more intimate group where you're just like chatting and sharing tips and like showing each other inspiration was really, really nice. So this is what I made. So most people brought a piece of clothing to upcycle, but I already upcycled all my like clothing that needs to be upcycled to make examples to like market the workshops. So I just used some scrap fabric to make this banner. It says girl, as in Material Girls, and I had this little like extra piece of lace that I put on the bottom and then just a bunch of mismatched fabric. So I think this is quite cute. I might bring it back to the next one, which is couching and embroidery, and like couch some shapes kind of around it. So yeah, really loved the upcycling workshop. I think I said like a little bit nervous about it just because it is a different kind of workshop than I've been doing, and I wanted to make sure that people enjoyed it and that I did a good job facilitating, and I feel like it went really well. So I'm excited for the next one. So the next one is couching and embroidery, and then after that we're doing upcycled looms using cardboard and yarn scraps, which is like a little bit different because you're not upcycling clothing, but it's so fun. I have led a workshop on that before last summer, and it was super fun. It's a great like relaxing, creative, more abstract activity. So my other main focuses have been on Material Girls publication stuff. So the latest issue of the magazine has come out, and I've already made some videos elsewhere on the internet taking a peek inside, but I'll just kind of go through the highlights here. So obviously the book club is super exciting, and I've been having so much fun with Grace, like watching the reception to that and having people like kind of feedback what they want to see from that space. So I'm really excited for that. We're starting on June 1st with the Subversive Stitch. And all you have to do to join it is go into the Geneva app group chat, which has already existed for Material Girls, but the download link for that app is always in my bio, and you can join the group chat, and there's a room in there called KNITLIT where people are already recommending books, and it's just a great vibe. Free patterns, I feel like I've been talking about these for like multiple videos because I've been working on them and showing you guys, but they're all in here. All the video tutorials are up on the Material Girls YouTube channel as well. We've got some essays, we've got paper dolls, so cute. So it's just a great issue. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I feel like when I get to the end of making these issues, I'm like so in it and like on a deadline where I'm just kind of like, oh, I just need to like finish this and get it out there. And then when it actually comes out and I get it like shipped to me, I'm like, wait, I kind of ate with that. Like, this turned out really cute. Went back on KNITLIT for a second. I've been making these stickers for the books, and those got shipped this week as well, which turned out so cute. I think it's so cute when book clubs put like Oprah's pick on the front of it or whatever, so I thought we'd do like the KNITLIT version of that. So I made these little stars. This is what the KNITLIT logo looks like. So it just says KNITLIT and then the Material Girls logo down the bottom. So this is the right size. You can put it in like the top right corner of a book like that. And then for on the inside of the books, I made these where it says from the KNITLIT library of Material Girls. You write your name, date, the month that you read it, and then you can rate it with the stars. So that goes just right on the inside like that. So I think those are cute. I've just been trying to think of like little touches to make it feel extra special and fun to engage with. Next big project is going to Paris. So that's happening in like 2 days, and Grace and I are going to do a workshop on the 21st, which I think is when this video will be scheduled to go out, but we're also just using it as an excuse to like spend a long weekend in Paris. We haven't been to Paris together before, so I think that'll be very fun. And something that I made for the club, speaking of like little extra things to make it special, are temporary tattoos of the Material Girls logo. I just discovered that you can like design sheets and then have them printed as temporary tattoos. So expect more of this. I'm thinking like flash tattoos at launch parties or like sent out with magazines or something could be fun. It's backwards so that when you paste it on, it is, you know, reading the correct way. So I'm gonna cut these out and put them on people's tables if they want to put on little temporary Material Girl tattoos. Either way, I think they'll just be like cute to add to the table. I'm so excited. This is my first time doing like an international workshop. I mean, I guess besides London, which is like international as an American, but London's also like the only place where I've done workshops like that. So it feels just very exciting. And I was super honored to be like asked to come do this. And it's just really cool when like I see that there are people who know about this community from other places and who want to engage with it. So I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to go do that and build a community in another place. So the next vlog is going to be all Paris stuff, like vlogging, getting ready for the trip and putting on the workshop and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to share that and just like take a holiday in Paris. Grace and I actually haven't left the UK since moving here a year and a half ago, and we've been able to do some traveling like out of London, which has been cool. But I think that on the internet there's a lot of like, oh, once you get to Europe, it's just so inexpensive to travel around everywhere. And like, yeah, I guess it is if you have like disposable income to be doing that, but frankly, it costs so much to like move over here that has not been the case for us for a while. So it feels really special to like, yeah, have the opportunity to go to Paris for a work thing and be able to take that opportunity and like extend it into a vacation and enjoy it with my girlfriend. It's just like, we're living the dream, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited to go on the Channel too. I'm going on the Eurostar, so I know it's like not that romantic, it's just a train, but it's kind of a cool concept. So anyway, next vlog will be about Paris, and then we've got packed June workshops. Not all of them have been announced yet, but over the summer it's looking like there's going to be a Material Girls workshop nearly every week, and they'll be in different parts of the city, and there'll be different concepts, and I'm just excited to, yeah, get to hang out with everyone all summer like that. So I hope you enjoyed this little peek into my week or so, and I will see you in the next vlog. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I'm excited to chat with you next time.